One thing I'm really grateful for with AA is it restored my faith in God. I was sitting in a meeting the other day, and this girl was in such despair because her brother had killed himself, and she didn't understand why God would do this, and it just happened. And she said, someone said, it's just God's plan. You have to roll through it. And when she was done, another member of the fellowship jumped in and said, that's not God's plan. That's the other guy's plan. And, it was so pertinent what he said. It was so true. And that, and it's what, and it's what I get out of AA is that AA is, I always say this in my mind. I don't think I say it out loud enough. Is that I was struggling, and God led me to AA, and then when I got into AA led me back to God. And I'm going to tell you, there is, there's that great, there's a story that goes around about, the arrogant professor saying that there is no God, and then one of the students comes back and says, well, to try and prove it, and he talks about how, well, do you believe in cold? Do you believe in heat? What is cold? Cold is the absence of heat. And he uses a few other metaphors, but basically says what is evil? And evil is the absence of God. Now the other one says what is light? There's no such thing as darkness. Darkness is just the absence of light. That's the same thing with God. There's when God is not in our lives, then there is evil. And and I'm not saying evil in the biblical term and how they all talk about it, but there's a badness. There is a disconnect with the divinity that is inherent in all of us. And I think one thing we have to understand with God is that He gives us freedom of choice. There is God's will, but if we don't wish to follow that will, if we don't wish to have faith, if we don't wish to believe, there's no ultimatum there forcing us to believe. But when we remove ourselves from the flow of divinity that is our birthright and inherent in this universe, then that cuts off our connection, and it also allows the evil or the darkness or the badness, whatever you want to call it, it lets that back in. And I can say without a doubt that I'll use myself as an example because right now I've been sober for almost 26 years, and in these past 26 years I've had some great times. My life has gone really, really well. Sobriety, being a recovered alcoholic, has just brought me some great things. But today I'm telling you, my business is struggling. My marriage is still good. I have a beautiful son, but I'm struggling financially, and it's really, I don't want to dump my shit here because this isn't where it belongs. What belongs here is the greatness and how great my recovery, how greatly being a recovered alcoholic has changed my life, and it has. I'm telling you, if I didn't have this faith, if I didn't have this connection with God, and the connection with God that I have is a direct result of these steps. I'd love to tell you it's a fellowship, but it's not. I love you guys in here, but the fellowship led me to the steps. The steps led me to God. God led me to the fellowship, and it's a circular thing. But I just lost my train of thought. But what I'm trying to say is that if I didn't have this program, and if I didn't have this consistent reconnection, this consistent connection with God, and I come into these rooms, and one thing I love about this fellowship is so many people in here are connected to their version of their divinity, and it's like a public swimming pool. It's like we're all in here, and some people are doing the Christian crawl, and others are doing the Buddhist backstroke, and we got the Muslim whatever, and it's all great, it's all beautiful, and it's all believing in an idea of a divinity, of a God that is loving, that is caring, that is empathetic. And that's one of the reasons why I love coming to these meetings, and I miss them so much over the past several years. But I listen to them every day, and that gets me connected. But recently, I felt I needed a stronger connection, which is why I'm trying to make it to at least one meeting a week right now. The point being, when this girl was talking about her brother's suicide and how it's God's will, it's not God's will. Because I'm telling you right now, I haven't had suicidal thoughts in the sense that I'd actually kill myself, but the idea crosses my mind. It's sort of like the idea, well, maybe taking a drink would help, or if I kill myself, then they could have the life insurance and I'd be done with it. But that's not where my mind is. And God, with God in my life, God says, no fucking way will you do that. God says you live in a world of infinite abundance. You just got to tap into another source. That's all I can do. And I know, here's what I know for certain. And I'll tell you, so direct result of working these steps. And if you're in this room and you haven't worked the steps and you've just been using meetings, that works for a while. When I first came into AA, I'm very introverted, and I'd sit in the rooms, I'd come late, I'd leave early. I'd get what I needed from the meetings, but I didn't do anything else. And I said, well, you know what, I don't need these steps. I'll just sit here. As long as I come to meetings, I won't drink. And in a few years, my life will be back together, and I'll be making the money I want to make. I'll have the woman, I'll have the car, I'll have everything, and I'll start drinking again. That was my thought process in early recovery. But luckily, I came in here and I worked the steps. And the steps took me through a spiritual awakening that I don't quite know how to explain, but my faith, I don't know if you ever heard of a guy by the name of Ken Wilber, who's I don't know if you call him a spiritual writer, but he's a philosopher. And he talks about God in all these different ways, and he's got this product levels and lines and all that. It's pretty interesting stuff that he does, but it's all very hypothetical. But he's got these like 10 different levels to get to really God, and he puts Christianity at level 7. Now you try to tell a Christian that you have a relation with God, but there's 3 more levels above you to God, and they're gonna laugh at you. I'm sure a lot of you are laughing at that comment right now. I thought it was ridiculous. But I'm going all over the map on this, but I just want to say that if I did not have God in my life, if I did not feel the divinity flowing through me, I don't quite understand what my purpose is right now, because my business is failing and I'm dealing with all sorts of financial stress, but I may not get what I want, but I know if I continue to walk my path and hold my faith, I will get what I need. I may need to go into some poverty so my son can learn how to be prosperous. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But I know one thing for certain is that with God in my life and with the faith that I've had, that I've been able to develop from this program, the idea of killing myself or taking my life doesn't exist. I won't say I don't think about it, because every now and then it says, shit, this is so stressful, I'm better off dead. but it's kind of like thinking through the drink. It's a short term. It's what do they call suicide? It's a long term solution to a short term problem. Um, Anyhow, that's all I got. Thank you for letting me share. I hope you got something from that.